Hey, you playa, if you're a guy that is less than 6 feet tall, chances are that you've run into some issues when it comes to dating regarding your height. In fact, 49% of women use height as a filter when it comes to their online dating searches. So, how is this short guy supposed to survive in this dating world? You gotta be a little tricky, and I'm gonna tell you how. If you're a short guy who's zoned in on only watching black pill YouTube channels, then you're going to be misled into believing that only tall people are dating all the women out there, and that's simply not true. In the US, only 14.5% of guys are 6 feet or taller, which means 85% of guys actually fall under that 6-foot threshold, with about 5'9" being the general average. It's important to remember that your height is not directly correlated with you actually dating. In fact, the majority of women out there are going to date guys under 6 feet simply because there aren't that many guys over 6 feet for them to choose from. And that sounds great if you're part of the 85% that's under 6 feet tall, but we do run into a bit of a social problem. You see, women tend to prefer men that are 6 feet or taller. They mention it in surveys, they filter guys out on dating websites by it. How are you supposed to compete in that market when it's driven into us socially that men who are 6 feet tall are more worthy of dating? The point I'm about to share is a bit controversial. In fact, I'm kind of torn as to where I even stand on this, but I want to share it anyway. You should probably lie about your height. Hear me out though before you agree or disagree in the comments down below. The reason why you should lie about your height is simply to give you a better advantage when that's the criteria that people are going to judge you on, something that really has nothing to do with the core of who you are. But isn't that a bit deceptive? I mean, you're starting this potential relationship out with someone foundationally on a lie. And how can you actually build any level of truth when you know that you've told them something totally made up from the very beginning? I understand and can definitely see the merits in that argument. However, I also understand a different perspective from guys who are actually short. Their position rests more like this. Let's say you're on a first date with someone and you're really nervous. Well, you don't want to tell that person outright that you're nervous, so you're going to fake a little bit of that confidence so that you can appear a little bit more cool, calm, and collected. Are you lying to them if you rehearse a few different conversation topics and answers beforehand, and then work them into the conversation as if you just naturally thought of them on the spot? Probably. Are you lying to them if they flat out ask you, "Are you nervous right now?" and you tell them, "No, absolutely not," when deep down you know what's really going on? Yeah, probably. But the way I see it, you are still in the process of getting through those introductory conversations, the ones where you're still a bit nervous and on your best behavior around that person because you don't know them well enough yet. You don't feel like you're in a place where you can be your open and honest self. So if you're a guy that's 5'6" and you're constantly being met with rejection simply because of your height, adding a few inches is going to allow you to potentially take that thought off of your mind, where you can focus on actually connecting with a person over real, non-superficial things. Now, of course, there are some obvious drawbacks to lying about your height. Number one, guys are already doing it on dating apps, so girls are kind of suspicious when a guy says that he's 6 foot or 6'1". They tend to know that he's probably 5'8" or 5'9". Or you might say that you're a certain height, and when you meet that girl in person, she just instantly knows that you made that up, and that can just totally deteriorate the potential relationship right then and there. I did say this is a bit of a controversial take, so what I would recommend doing is, if you're a guy under 6 feet and you're worried about not getting dates, you might want to build your hobbies and your interests around what women consider to be a dreamy persona. These are different personas that display a level of power, mystique, or creativity, and those are the ones that women just tend to be more drawn to. That might mean looking more into being an artist, a writer, a musician, a comedian, an athlete, an organizer, something that allows you to put yourself in a position where people want to be around you. People are interested in you and what you're doing because you are an entertainer above all. In that scenario, you may be creating something that's way more gravitational and thereby successful for you in dating if you're someone that's not super tall, but you could just use that as a checklist item to get girls. I know it sounds cliche and might come off a little bit like just be yourself type of advice, but what you're actually doing here is strategic. You're aligning yourself with different roles and personas that women are drawn to. Take a look at different musicians, for example. There are so many musicians that are popular, not because they're attractive, but because they're talented. And the talent is what draws people to them. And that might be your active advantage if you're someone that's under 6 feet. But I will say this though, the best thing that you can do to potentially secure a dating partner is to not allow the struggles and hardships that you're facing currently in dating to allow you to become jaded towards the process. This happens to far too many guys when they're constantly dealing with rejection, especially when it's over something that they have no control over, like their height. The easiest thing that we can do is to point a finger at someone and to get upset with them because they don't have to go through the same challenges that we do in order to succeed. For them, it might come more naturally, and that can make you frustrated because why were you given this hard path in life? Why were you chosen to suffer and not them? The problem with going down that path is that rejection starts to hurt a lot more and failure starts to sting a lot more. And all it does is distance you more and more from potentially meeting someone because you're always going to second guess them. You're always going to allow insecurity to drive your thought process. And you're not going to allow yourself to rest in peace when you're with someone who doesn't value height like everyone else does. Overall, your dating life might suck a lot less if you learn to manage the expectations you have in dating. That might mean recognizing your own limitations and capabilities within social standards and adjusting for that. Recognizing that maybe you're not going to get the beautiful top 10 model and you might be better off with someone that's more on your wavelength. People don't like to hear that because what they actually hear is, you're telling me to settle for someone that I don't really like. And nothing could be further from the truth. All I'm suggesting is to recognize where you might have shortcomings, where you might have successes, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and to kind of really look for someone that can match that better rather than this big hopeful expectation you might think you want, but might not actually make you happy in the end. But I'm sure I said something you either agree with or disagree with, so I need to hear your opinion down below. Should you lie about your height? Is it totally unethical, or is it just a necessity to survive in the dating market today? Check out the video over there on the screen now where I'm going to talk more about height and how that relates to dating and how it can affect your dating life in the future. On that note, I'll catch you next time. As always, love and peace.